And welcome back to another episode of the Drunkencryptids. I do want to give a quick shout out to blademedia.com. Thank you, Dylan, over there for the hard work you have done on the logo, the website. It looks amazing. Don't forget to check out the website, you guys, drunkencryptids.com. It looks amazing. And check out blademedia.com, BLAYED media.com. Trust me, Dylan will do a good job for you guys. Check him out. Tell them the Drunken Cryptid sent you. Anyways, I do want to give a shout out again to my team. My team, you guys, is amazing. And again, I would not be here today if it wasn't for them. And of course, I got to thank everybody in the audience. Thank you guys for listening to the show, liking and sharing it. It means a lot. We are moving up in the algorithms, and it means a lot. Thank you very much. It's been a fun journey, and we're still going even further. We do have some events coming up. I am going to be speaking at the in Ada, Ohio, at the Ohio Bigfoot Jamboree 2 this year. That's going to be on October 4th. Please go to Cryptids of the Corn website. That's cryptidsofthecorn.com. Go check them out, you guys. The tickets are available for sale. So if you're going to be in the area, come on out. Come to the fest. And yeah, you're going to have a good time. There's going to be a lot of guest speakers there. A lot of podcasters are going to be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I highly recommend you go, because you're going to see some of the podcasters you like listen to, including me. So, hey, my first speaking engagement. I'm pretty excited and honored. Thank you. And of course, I am going to be at the Paranormal Expo in Little Rock, Arkansas on October 26th and 27th. On the evening of the 26th, we are going to be doing kind of a meet and greet hangout thing at Old Bart's in North Little Rock. It's going to be a lot of fun. Bart's going to put on some specials for people who were at the expo that day. So come check it out. So that's what we got coming up. There'll be some other stuff coming down the line, you guys. Remember, we do have a Patreon out there, so definitely check out the Patreon, see if anything works for you. Buy me a coffee. Hopefully is up and running by this point in time. So if you want to buy me a cup of coffee, that'd be great. I'd appreciate it. I like coffee. So, and that does help support the show. It really, really does support the show and supports investigations. And of course, if you've had an encounter and you want to come on the show, email me, drunkencryptids@gmail.com, or send me a message on any of the social media platforms. I guarantee you, me or Tommy will get it, and one of us will respond back to you as soon as we can. We do work a 9-to-5 job as well. So sometimes there could be a little delay, but thank you for your patience on all of that stuff. But let's get into tonight. So this is a current event that's happening right now. They have discovered an interstellar object coming into our solar system. And the speculations out there are wild. Is it just an asteroid? Is it a comet? Is it an alien craft? Is it hostile? What exactly is it? Well, our astronomer friend Charles is coming on this evening, and we're going to break down the 3 past interstellar objects that have come into our solar system, and this one being the 3rd. And also, today they're talking about another object could be hitting our moon in the next couple of years. So we're gonna break down and discuss and see exactly what these things could be, what they couldn't be, and what could be. And that's the cool part. So sit back, relax. It's showtime.
Rustling trees in the backwoods night, red lights cutting through the pine in flight. Bigfoot stomping with his youngling beard, whispers of tales that ain't too clear. UFOs buzzing solo through the haze, howling banshees set the forest ablaze. Jersey devil howls drink rays to the sky. Drunken cryptids party until the morning's night. Yeah! It's showtime, running wild in the moonlight. Stars burn down, watch the freaks all take flight
to good times.
Raise your glasses to the mysteries divine. It's showtime, let the cryptids realign.
Hey, Charles. Thanks for coming back on the show. How you been?
Oh, I've been good. Lots of things happening, but out in space, it's always happening. So,
There is a lot right now going on in space, but I do want to say it was an awesome pleasure to meet you on 4th of July.
yes, I had a great time. It was good. It was good to see you, and it was fun talking with you. So,
Yeah, you got to see my little boy in action, and how do you?
yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
He is attached to my hip. He is my little shadow everywhere I go. He's right there, and I couldn't be happier about it. And
Yeah, he's a good kid. I'll tell you. I I love the fact that he's really into spiders. I think that's really cool.
he, as a matter of fact, just this morning while I was at work, he called me and he said that he had caught two other spiders last night, him and his friend, and he's just like ecstatic over it, and he's just all into bugs and everything. And I'm just like, have at it, buddy. Be you. I love it. I mean, I've got his room decorated in bugs and spiders and Minecraft. So, I
All
mean,
right.
he's a boy. I think, that's what he should be doing. He should be out there flipping over rocks and looking what's underneath there.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
felt bad because last week it was so hot and I work outside and he wanted to go looking for frogs every night. And I was just like, Ben, I'm so tired. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm so tired from the heat. So I owe him a lot of, frog hunting. And as soon as the temperature settles down, I owe him some fishing expeditions as well.
Yeah. Cool.
But he is a great kid. He really is. And he's just awesome. I mean, I could do a whole episode about how awesome I think my kids are, but I think every parent is out there like that.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So let's talk about what's going on in space. So we've got, okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been jumping around trying to track this stuff, and other things has been happening too in the cryptid world. Is there two objects right now, or just the one?
There's just one. There's been three though. We've had three interstellar visitors.
Well,
Um,
so the first one was a really weird oblong shaped one, correct?
yes. Yes.
That like flew
Uh,
past the sun and just kept rolling straight out of our solar system.
exactly. Yes. And it did not. Even though it's similar in makeup to the next two, it did not act like a comet. But the current one and the one before the second one are very comet-like as in acting, but this one did not. And of course, there were some really interesting things that happened. Of course, its shape is really weird. We don't know of any asteroids that look like that, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't have formed that way and been knocked around enough that that's the way it came out. Um, and it did probably come from some other solar system. What solar system, we don't have any idea, because we don't know how many other solar systems it might have gone through. So we don't even know how old the object is. But it was discovered. The first one was discovered on October 19th, 2017, by a robotic, computer-controlled telescope system looking for moving objects. That's what it does. It's named Pan Stars, and it's a huge acronym that to tell you what Pan Stars is, but it basically just saw that this thing was moving and moving very quickly, and so then the rest of astronomy goes into action, and they figure out what its orbit is, and they find out that it's a hyperbolic orbit. All three of them have that, where it comes in, goes by the sun, and then goes back out.
So real quick, what is a hyperbolic orbit?
It basically just means that, well, in our case, most of our comets are parabolic orbits. Okay, they're in parabolas, but they eventually basically are in parabolic as they come into the sun, but they're in ellipse. Okay, their orbits are ellipses, but they have a very parabolic-y look to them as they come in from the outer solar system. But hyperbolic means that it's like a hyperbola, but essentially the orbit is, and that means it's not in orbit. It's just coming in. The sun's gravity is just sort of basically turning it and sending it on its way. But because it's moving so fast, in the case of the first one, which now is known as 1I, and the I stands for interstellar, it is moving at about 238,000. Oh wait, no, that's how close it got to the Earth. It was moving at about 50. Wait a minute, where is it? Here it is, 196,000 miles per hour, or 54 miles per second.
That's not fast at all. I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around something going that fast. You know what I mean?
I know it's really hard, and all these things that we're going to be talking about, the numbers are really big. Like its closest approach was like 15 million miles to the Earth. Okay, well, what does that mean? I mean, we're not really used to talking about those kinds of distances, and I thought, well, the average distance from the Earth to the Sun is 93 million miles. Okay. And the average distance from the Earth to the Moon is 238,000 miles. So we're in between those two measurements as far as its closest approach to Earth. But, again, it's moving so fast, I can't even imagine.
So the Moon is 238,000 miles away?
Yeah, on average. I mean, sometimes it's a little bit closer, sometimes it's a little bit further away.
I thought it was closer than that for some reason.
No.
Huh. Okay. All right. I learned something.
Yeah, well,
I thought I would have known
easy
that.
to do. Space does that to you. I didn't even know when I first started looking this up. I didn't even know that there was another one after the first one. So I didn't know there was a second one. But that one's interesting too, and I'll tell you why in just a few minutes. But just to kind of I don't want to go too much into what it's made up of yet, because they all three are pretty much made the same. But one of the weird things about the first one, which also has been given the name Amua, which is Hawaiian, and it means scout, roughly translated. But it did do something that it did change sort of its orbit. And it did that by either accelerating or decelerating. And I never could find out exactly which one it was that it did. But they believe that was from outgassing. And a real easy way to explain it is that it's a water rich. They're all three of them are water rich. Okay, they have a lot of water in them. Okay, obviously it's all frozen, but cosmic rays could have broken up some of the ice into gases, and actually could have broken the water gas into hydrogen and oxygen. And then it could have expelled those to either slow it down or speed it up. That's a very common thing that all comets that we know about do. But the weird thing is that this one, 1I, did not have a coma. It did not have a gas cloud around it that you could see. So that's why we know more about its shape, because you could see it actually tumble through the as it was coming through, and they figured out that it was about half a mile or 2,640 feet long and about 264 feet thick. And it was just rotating around that long axis. So it was like, and it did that every 7.3 hours.
So it was a slow rotation then.
Yeah, it was pretty slow.
That's kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie, that is kind of cool.
How it just tumbled along, yeah. That and so it varied in brightness. Now, the other two objects have this coma around them, which is mostly water, water gases, gas of water essentially turned into gas. The second object is it's been given the name 2I. When it was originally discovered, it was given the name Comet. I've got this phonetically written so I can say it properly.
Okay.
Borisov. And it's because it was discovered by an amateur astronomer. And that's his last name. And his first name was Gennady Borisov. And he discovered it, the second object, on August 30th, 2019. And as I said, it pretty much was like a regular comet. It acted very much like a normal comet. The only thing is we didn't see, like, comets here that are in our solar system usually give off, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and some other stuff. But so that and dust and other stuff like that. Now, we do know that these did give off dust. There were dust particles, but we can't tell what the dust is made of because it's a dark material. It's not. There's no way to, unless we went there, to really find out what the dust is made up of. But there is something that they do, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But it did act very much like a normal comet. Its closest approach to the sun was 24 million miles, and it was traveling at 110,000 miles per hour, or 30.5 miles per second.
So not as fast as the first one.
Yeah. It is estimated to be about 3,200 feet in diameter, roughly. It's harder to guess when they have there's a coma. It's harder to estimate the size because the coma is so much larger than the actual body that's creating the coma. And again, essentially, the coma is just a gas cloud. In this case, it's mostly water ice that has essentially went from ice to gas because of the sun's energy hitting it, like the ultraviolet rays that hit it. So now to today, we have the object known as 3I, and it was discovered by Atlas, and that's another computerized remote telescope system that has four telescopes, 2 in Hawaii, 1 in Chile, and 1 in South Africa. And that was I don't remember which telescope it was that discovered it, but it was discovered on July 1st of 2025. So, I mean, we're just now getting to the end of July, so it's pretty quick. And there's a lot of information. There's been a lot of conjecture as well, and we'll talk about some of that too. But its current estimated size is very large, though. They believe it's between 9 and 12 miles in diameter. So it's larger than objects 1 and 2. It's traveling at about 152,000 miles per hour, or 42 miles per second.
Okay. So that means, okay, still going slower than the first one, but faster than the second one.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and so its closest approach. This is interesting. Its closest approach is going to be 16.7 million miles from the Earth, but it's actually going to get closer to Mars. It's going to be only 18 million miles from Mars.
Okay.
And so
isn't there speculation right now of it hitting our moon, though?
No, not this one. That's a totally different object.
Oh gosh. Okay, so wow. Okay, never mind.
Yeah,
Well,
That's a
save that
totally
one for
different-
later. Okay, let's go to let's stick with
Yeah,
this one.
it's a totally different object. I got that. I got information about that too. So, because I figured people would be interested in that. So what we do know that they're all three water rich, obviously, because we see the water gas clouds around two of them, but not on the first one. And so the common. Okay, let's talk a little bit about how do we know much about them, and part of it is we don't know much about them. But what we can do is we can look at their total reflected light, and look at the whole spectrum in infrared as well as visible light, and what we notice is that it's very similar. It's a very kind of a reddish type object, uh, similar to what we see in a lot of the trans-Neptunian objects that exist out past Neptune, essentially. Pluto, for instance, is kind of very reddish because of the types of material that fall out of Pluto's atmosphere, caused by the sun's interaction with the gases in its atmosphere. But a lot of them do that happens just to the surface, so they're more redder in color. They also resemble a lot like Type D asteroids, and basically they're a water-rich type asteroid. There's several of them are Trojan asteroids that are at Jupiter, and so I was trying to figure out the best way to describe what a Type D asteroid is, and it's super technical, but essentially the best thing to say is that it's water rich. It's got a lot of like carbon in it and things like that. We do have an example of a meteorite which came from a Type D asteroid. It's called Tagish Lake, and that's in British Columbia, and so it's we do have some of that material on the surface of the Earth that came from the asteroid belt, because that's where all meteorites come from. Now, that's not true of all meteors, which are in the sky. Currently, we just had a peak of a meteor shower, and it's not one of the major ones, so I don't have that one stuck in my head. But we do have the Perseid meteor shower coming up next month, on like the 12th and 13th.
I think there's one tonight and tomorrow night as well.
It could be.
I can't remember which one that one is either.
Showers.
Yeah,
it's one of the more minor showers. It's not, but the Perseid is one of the major showers. But unfortunately, the moon is not going to cooperate. So all you'll really see are the really bright ones of the Perseid meteor shower. There's always Perseids are always a really good show, but when the moon's in the way, it hinders that. Now, I'm sure all the listeners have heard a lot of press about this third object being maybe a spacecraft from another world.
Yeah, I'm one of them. That's what I've been hearing as well.
And so I found the source of that, and it is an astronomer by the name of Avi Loeb, and he and two other guys wrote a paper just recently, and I have that paper in front of me. And they point out several things that they think makes this suspicious. Okay, and some of it is real technical, but I'm going to read some of it to you. So they have 9 pieces of evidence that they think that supports their hypothesis that it's technological as opposed to natural. And so the first one is that the orbital plane lies virtually in the ecliptic. Okay, so in other words, as it goes through the solar system, it's in the plane of the planets. Okay, as we all orbit around the sun. Their second piece of evidence is that it's too large to be an asteroid. Well, okay, not necessarily, but all right. As we have asteroids that are way bigger than that. Number 3 is 3i shows no evidence of cometary outgassing. Now, I would argue with him about that because it has a coma, okay, but it is not necessarily giving off other cometary gases that we might expect, but it's from a different place, so it may not have those gases or ices on it. So, I mean, there's a lot of argument on all of these, but the other thing is that it approaches unusually close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. Okay, well, I mean, it's just randomly coming in. You could randomly go by lots of them, but anyway, you see what I'm saying? These are not very
solid arguments.
Well defined pieces of evidence, as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, another one is that it achieves perihelion on the opposite side of the Earth to the Sun, and their argument about that has to do with some kind of strange maneuver that it could do and then go into orbit around the sun. So obviously, if it doesn't do that, then I guess it's not technological. I don't know. The other, let's see. So they call it the Oberth maneuver. I don't know much about that, other than it's supposedly a pretty big change in velocity can put it into orbit around the sun. But that has to happen at perihelion. If it doesn't happen then, it won't work.
So it has to happen where?
At perihelion, when it's closest to the sun.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's why I was going, hold on, is that like a location? Is that somewhere in the galaxy?
Well, it is a spot, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, their seventh piece of reasoning is that 3i's incoming radiant made it harder to detect sooner. Okay, again, these are all very argumentative as far as I'm concerned, because I mean, it could have came in from any direction. It just because it's very random, unless it's technological. And then it's 8 and 9 are similar. It's the delta V, so the change in velocity needed to intercept Jupiter is small. Also, so number 9 is the delta V needed to intercept Mars is small. Okay. I don't know why they would even want to do that, but whatever. So those are the 9 pieces of evidence that they think that makes this technological. Now, let me read you the conclusion, or at least the first part of the conclusion. We strongly emphasize that this paper is largely a pedagogical exercise with interesting discoveries and strange serendipities worthy of a record in the scientific literature. By far the most likely outcome will be that 3i Atlas is completely natural interstellar object, probably a comet, and the authors await the astronomical data to support this likely origin. Okay, and then he goes on to say that we should be open-minded and consider that this might be some kind of hostile technology coming in to check us out or go into orbit, and I don't know what. But anyway.
Well, okay, so speaking
your
of...
imagination can go crazy with that.
Yeah, well, speaking of like going into orbit and stuff, then, for this object right here, what we're... so... Let's go ahead and hypothesize that this is some alien. I guess the best term to use is alien technology. Okay, let's say this is something coming in. This is a craft that entered our solar system. So as of right now, I mean, when's it due to pass us?
Okay,
at
that's a
its
good
current
question.
speed?
That is a good question.
Because
Let me
this
see.
date right now is July 30th of 2025 is when this recording
Yes,
is.
I believe it's in October.
Okay, so we still got months away before it should pass us.
Yes.
Okay, so if it was to start to detour or put itself into our orbit,
Well,
when would that have to start for us to have an idea of when it? I mean,
that's all a very good question, and it all would depend on how they do it. I mean, you know, the way NASA does it is we stick a rocket on our probe, like if we're going to Jupiter or Saturn, and we make sure it has enough fuel so that when it gets there, we fire the rocket and use a lot of fuel to slow it down enough to be captured into orbit. Okay. Now, obviously, this is a pretty big object, so I guess it could store a lot of fuel on board. So, uh, it might could do that, I guess. But the other thing is, it could be doing it very slowly, and we've done that too. We have some spacecraft out there that are using electrical propulsion system that basically is firing out individual atoms. And those individual atoms, although the force is not great, because there's no friction in space, there's no air, so nothing to slow you down. Every time you send out one of those atoms, accelerated, of course, and it pushes the spacecraft a little bit. And it keeps doing that over and over and over, and you start to build up speed over time. And then when you get about halfway there, you flip it in the other direction and you start slowing it down so that then when you get there, you just ease right into orbit. So that would have to be happening if they were doing it that way. And it doesn't take as much fuel to do that because you're using, but obviously they have a lot more mass than one of our little spacecraft. So, but that should be changing constantly all the time now. So they should be slowing down even now, and we're not seeing that, unfortunately.
okay, that's what I was curious about. Like when it would have to start slowing down to be able to enter
It should
into
have
our
already
atmosphere.
started. Pretty much when it came into the solar system, it should have started to slow down if it was going to use that second method. Now it could still use the other one, where they essentially fire a rocket motor of some kind to just slow it down all at once. Although that's not necessarily very good for any beings that might be on it. But then again, if they can do that, they've probably got better technology than we do. So that might not bother anybody on the spacecraft. I have no idea. But and of course, the other thing is some people thought, well, maybe it's just coming in and, checking out the Earth and all that. But it's moving so fast, that would be hard to do. I mean, yeah, I guess you could take some spectra of the Earth's atmosphere and
Well, if you think about the SR-71 that we had years ago, that was going Mach 3, I mean, more than that, over foreign countries, high elevation, running the camera, you know.
yes.
So
But
maybe that's what it's
we're
doing
talking
too.
way faster than Mach 3, though.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying the technology that we had at that time was
Yeah.
like people were going, "That's
I
too
mean, I'm not
fast."
saying it's out of the possibility. Also, the other thing is it's not really coming that close in this case to Earth at all. Its closest approach is going to be really to Mars.
It's like 115 million miles away from us and like 90 miles away from Mars.
18 million miles from Mars,
18 million miles.
167 million miles from the Earth.
Okay, 18 million. That's okay. That's actually that is close. And in
I mean,
space distance, that is close.
Yes, it is. Not so close to us, but definitely kind of close to Mars. Now, I mean, some people theorize that at some point in time, Mars did have life on it, but obviously That was a pretty long time ago because they don't have uh, any more liquid water. There's still water there, but it's in ice form. So, um, but that's a whole different other story that we could talk about sometime. But
Yeah, Mars is fascinating.
it is. It's an interesting place. Um, but
Mars is definitely fascinating. I will say that Mars has always fascinated me, though. I think it's always fascinated everybody else. Hence the term Martians. I mean, that means they come from
oh
Mars.
yeah.
So it's
Well, we can just talk about it briefly. But there's yeah, both. There were two astronomers, Percival Lowell and what was the other guy's name? But he was a European, and they both sat and stared at Mars for hours through the telescope. And Mars is very tiny, even in a big telescope. It's still very, very tiny. And all of the stuff with the atmosphere, because when you magnify an object with a telescope, you're not only just magnifying the object, you're magnifying what's between you and the object. And in that case, it's the atmosphere. And so the atmosphere is like changing all the time. The air is, moving around. It's like the ocean. Except it's air. And so they began to see stuff, and they would draw it all out, and it looked like. And Percival Lowell was the first one to jump on the bandwagon about that they were canals, and he got that from the other guy. But the other guy was Italian, I believe, and he used the term canali, but that didn't mean canals. It doesn't. It's not a direct translation to canals. Basically, canali meant like just little troughs and things, but he didn't know what those troughs were. But Percival Lowell took the word canali, meaning canals, and because he wasn't a real astronomer. He was just a rich guy who could afford a gigantic telescope, and then he looked at Mars because Mars fascinated him. And Mars is very somewhat Earth-like. It's got a tilt like us. It's very close to rotational period is very close to ours. It's just like another 30 minutes or so longer day. It has changes in the ice caps that we can see with the seasons that it has, even though they're a lot longer. They're like twice as long because it orbits. Its orbit is about twice as big. So it takes 687 days roughly to make one orbit for Mars. So all the seasons are about twice as long. But anyway, I can see how he got sucked in to that, thinking canals and seeing all those things that look like dark lines, and that all was due to the atmosphere. He wasn't seeing none of that is real.
Yeah, well, we know. Well, I mean, we've got our own satellites now over Mars, and we've had rovers
right
on it, so we know there was no canals. And I do remember that as a kid, because that's also part of where H.G. Wells got his idea for War of the Worlds.
Right. But yeah, and that's the other thing is today we know that Mars is not like that. Now, maybe they have these aliens who've sent this, whatever it is, if it's automated or if there's people on it, or I guess not people, I should say aliens. If there's some civilization that has decided to send this to check out our solar system. Again, it's going so quickly. It couldn't do as good a job as if it was going a lot slower. But like you said, technology. And I said it too. Their technology. If they could do this, they probably have way better technology than we do. So that may be all they need. Just a quick zoop by, and then they know everything there is to know about the solar system.
True. Well, I'm also thinking of the braking system as well. Once breaking it down is, we do fire, the two ways, fire rock, up there, and then all of a sudden it hits the brakes as it comes in, starts slowing it down rapidly. And then the other one is to do, speed it up and slow it down. So that's, going off of what, our technology, that we know of our technology. But if they're able to cross solar systems and such, wouldn't they be able to have a system maybe to bring them, I don't know, slow them down quicker without having to start their, deacceleration earlier? So they could start it later or something along those lines. You know what I mean? So I'm just I'm trying to use my imagination and think outside the box.
Yeah, any of that could be possible. I mean, we just because we don't have any idea what they would have or what they would be able to do. I just don't know that they can't escape the physics of the situation with it going that fast. It's going to take a lot of energy to slow down, whether you use it a little bit at a time or all at once.
And there's been no evidence as of this recording of it slowing down?
Nope. It is still going strong. Everything about the orbit, I mean, they're checking that very carefully all the time to make sure they've got the orbit correctly. Because somebody, I'm sure, is trying to say, well, if it came in this orbit, what's back that way? And they're looking to see if they can figure out where it may come from. But the chances of knowing that are very, very slim, because even though we're starting to find other planetary systems going around other stars, it's hard to know, what system that could have come from, and so that would be. I mean, you can make some guesses. You could say, well, it could have came from this one or this one, but see, we don't know. It could have gone through several other solar systems
before coming to us.
It's changed its route every time it goes through a solar system. So, and who knows? At some point, it may not. It's going to run into something eventually.
Yeah, I think they all do that.
But who knows? I mean, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I would say that if we haven't seen any change by October, I think the chances of them being able to instantly slow down, get rid of that energy that fast would be really hard to do. But that doesn't mean they don't have the technology. But I would say by the time October rolls around, we ought to know whether or not it's slowing down at some point.
And it is fun to kind of speculate some of these things.
Oh, it is.
With it being so far out. You know what I mean?
Actually, to be honest, his whole idea of just doing this as sort of a mental exercise, and what if it was, or there's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, that's just imagination, and imagination can lead to all kinds of discoveries, and that's that's kind of what science is all about. It's just that I don't know that writing a official astronomical paper was what was necessarily needed, but
well, it almost sounds like clickbait, especially with the end statement there.
Yeah.
Boom, look at this. This is going to be alien. It could be hostile. And, I don't understand the reasoning for saying it could be hostile.
I don't either, but I guess he's just thinking, well, what if maybe since he's doing this as a mental exercise anyway, maybe he's thinking, well, we should be thinking about what if they are hostile? What are we going to do? Well, how are we going to defend ourselves?
Well, people are also, and see, this is how I think that, humans, mankind, however you want to say, we are very egotistical. We have a superiority complex, to where we think that, if it is if another species was to visit our planet, they would be here as conquerors, because that's what we have done throughout our own history. When we've discovered a new place, we've gone in and conquered it. That's what humans do. That doesn't mean whatever the species is, that's what they do. And so, we think too many along the lines of what we do versus what something else could do. And we try and humanize everything.
The other thing that you have to remember, most of our time as a as civilizations on the Earth, you know, we didn't know there were other Earths or other planets. I mean, that's all new stuff. I mean, you know, it's always been sort of, you know, like science fiction. Yeah, there's probably another Earth out there, you know, and all that. But you know, we've not really up until probably 20 years ago, we didn't even know there were other planets going around other stars. We had no clue that that was happening, even though most astronomers would have suggested that that would have been the case. Because it would be super duper strange just to have one solar system in a galaxy. I mean, if you think about the billions and billions of stars that are in a galaxy, you know, that the chances of just having a singular star with planets around it would be really hard to imagine. I mean, but you know, we didn't have the technology to figure that out. And once we started doing that, then newer ideas came up with, oh, we could do this, and we could probably find them out quicker. Because the very beginning, you had to have tons and tons of rotational data to figure out that there was something tugging on the star, and that's how we first figured it out. But the two guys that sort of championed that spent gobs of hours in front of the telescope getting that data,
That little wobble.
and then looking for the wobble. That's all they were doing. And then somebody said, well, what if we look to see if the object moves in front of the star? And because as we got better technology to measure light brightness with photometers, so then we sent up a spacecraft that's all it did was look to see if stuff moved in front of the star, and we found a whole bunch of them. That was the Kepler spacecraft, by the way.
Yep.
And so, you know, again, we're so new at this. I mean, we still don't really know for sure what a lot of those planets are like. We're starting to, with the James Webb Telescope, we're starting to be able to actually measure the atmosphere, get a spectrum of the atmosphere of a planet going around another star. Of course, what does that tell us? Well, I don't know if that tells us whether or not life would be there, but it does tell you whether or not the conditions of life could exist on another planet. But and what we're finding out, you know, is there's a lot of really big planets, supersized Jupiters, in other words, bigger Jupiters than what we have, and also super Earths that are much bigger than the Earth. So, you know, what would it be like? I mean,
the super Earths, they're the ones that fall into the Goldilocks zone.
If they do, yeah. There's still some that are Earth size that are in that super Earth size category that are not in the Goldilocks zone that they found. So, and you know, the Goldilocks zone is going to be different for every single star. So, you know, just because we kind of know about a star and how it works doesn't mean that we know everything about the stars and how they evolve and change. I mean, we know, for instance, that there are these red dwarf stars that they live along. Their lifespan is really long. It'd be like 2 to 3 times what our star's lifetime is. So, you know, that might be a good candidate to look for a planet with a civilization. But the problem is that a lot of those have flares that make our solar flares from the sun look like babies. They have these mega flares that go off. They sometimes refer to them as flare stars. But they're huge, and they would wipe out planets that would be in the Goldilocks zone, or at least depending on how periodically they do that, maybe a civilization can recover. But it's just, I mean, there's just so many variables out there that we don't know, that makes it hard for us to know whether or not life could exist. Uh, and that's just because we're so new at it. We haven't done it for very long.
Oh, no, one, I agree with you. But I will say I'm going to quote the infamous Dr. Malcolm, and I can't remember his last name from the movie, but life finds a way.
It does. You're right.
Okay,
It does.
so
Well,
now
even here,
there's another
even
one
here,
coming in.
even here on the Earth, we're finding places where we never would have thought there'd be life, and by golly, it's full of life.
Yeah, my
So
favorite one is the sharks they found in the volcano.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love sharks. So then I was going, how cool is that? And I was like, and for some reason, but I wasn't surprised. I was going, I guess nothing surprises me anymore. This stuff. Oh, look, there's a hostile craft coming into our solar system. Great. And just, what do y'all want to do this weekend? I mean, but yeah, we found sharks living in a volcano. I think that's fascinating to me. So there's
Yeah.
another object though that could hit the
Yes.
moon.
Okay, so let me just kind of go through the history of this because it's kind of interesting too. Okay, so it's
All right.
the name of this thing is asteroid 2024 YR4, and that's just the way because of when it was discovered, and has a lot to do with that. But it was discovered December 22nd. No, excuse me, that's wrong. It was discovered December 27th, 2024 by the Atlas remote computerized telescope system, just looking for things moving in the sky. And that one was the Chilean telescope. This object is about 174 to 220 feet. Now that's an increase in size from its original estimate because the James Webb telescope looked at it in infrared light, and so we were able to get a better judgment for actually how big it is. And then just for you want to know how big that equates to, that's like a 10 to 15 story building. So kind of a big thing.
Yeah, that is kind of big.
So when it was first discovered, there was a very small chance that it might hit the Earth. And it was supposed to, if it did that, it would happen on December 22nd, 2032. But that's just because we didn't know the orbit very well. And that's just the way NASA operates. They, when they calculate the first orbit, if it looks like it's sort of going to be headed towards our way, they just want to let everybody know. And so, because they don't want to be, they're always worried about, hiding information because, everybody says they do, but anyway, so but then after they got more orbital information, they saw basically no chance of it hitting the Earth. But then after they looked at it a little more closely, they began to see, oh, hey, there's a little chance that it might hit the moon. And that was like 1.7% chance that it might hit the moon on the same date, December 22nd, 2022. But just recently, NASA upped it to 3.8% that it might hit the moon. But that also means there's a 96.2% chance that it's going to miss the moon.
Yeah, the greater is to miss it.
Yeah. So you have to be a really good long shot better to put your money on the 3.8% chance. And that may change still more as time goes along because its orbit is 3.9 years to complete. Okay, so a lot of stuff can happen in 3.9 years. It could get hit by something. It could. I mean, there's just any number of things that could happen, or another asteroid could come by it and change its orbit a little bit. So, I mean, that's something that they'll be looking at as much as they can. Is it's where it is in the sky and where it is in its orbit, and all that will allow us to figure out even more how accurate it is. But really, the chance of it hitting it right now is very, very small.
Well, let's talk about the possibility.
But it is
then.
a chance.
Yeah,
so
let's talk about the possibility of it hitting them. So let's talk about if it hits the moon.
If it hits the moon, it could be quite spectacular. Now, it's not going to harm the moon it's going to create a crater. It's good, but it won't change anything about the moon. It's not going to change its orbit or any of that. It's got too much mass, and that object, even though it's going pretty quickly, it's not enough to change its orbit. Now, we were able to, with the DART mission, which was a joint mission between NASA and the European Space Agency. We built basically the penetrator, and they built the object to watch what happened. And we hit a nearby asteroid, and we did push it a little bit with our impactor to make it move in its orbit. So we changed its orbit a little bit. So it was successful in that. And that's, if you do it at the right time, when it's farthest from you, it's moving its slowest amount. So it's easiest to change its orbit at that point. And so a little change can make a big difference from that point on. But since there's no chance that it's going to hit the Earth, we're probably not going to do anything about that. So if it does end up hitting the moon, it's going to be, depending on where it hits and if we can see it, it could be quite spectacular. So that's all I can say. The idea of it, if it was to come into the atmosphere of the Earth, it would probably do what Chelyabinsk happened in Chelyabinsk, where the meteor exploded and it knocked out all those windows, and it hurt a lot of people because of the glass flying around. It burned some people that were pretty close to where it got at its brightest and the explosion occurred. So those kinds of things would probably happen if it was to enter the Earth, but the moon doesn't have that. So it's going to be an actual impact that will occur, and it will create an impact crater. And of course, it'll throw up a lot of material, and then all that material will fall down to the surface. So scientists would be going, yeah, that's great, because then we can get a free shot at looking at fresh material underneath the surface of the moon, because we already have a spacecraft in orbit that's been there for a number of years that has a super high-res camera system and could take pictures of it and look at the spectra, and we could know a whole lot of stuff about the moon that we may not know from surface samples that we've brought back, because that's all we've brought back. Even the Chinese who've been there and brought some samples back, it's all surface material stuff. It's not what's underneath the surface. But a big impact like that would allow for that to be the case, so you could actually find out more material, find out more about what the moon is made of better than what we know now.
It would be pretty cool to see that, though. I'm not going to lie.
It would be. Yeah, it could be quite spectacular.
I think everybody on the planet would be like skyward watching it, and hoping that you would be able to get the dark side on a full moon, you know?
Yep, they would be. It would. There would be. I mean, every professional telescope would be looking at it, and practically every amateur astronomer would be looking at it as well. Everybody be recording it. It would just be super cool to see.
And that's in about a little over 3.5 years from now.
Yeah, it's December 22nd, 2032. Mark it on your calendar.
But because what's funny about that is when we were talking, it seems like with this the 3i coming in, yeah. All of a sudden now it seems like everything that's out there, because I'm being, people are sending this stuff to me about it. Is like this one, all of a sudden, boom, the moon's going to get hit by one. I was like, whoa. I think I sent you that one today.
Yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
So, and I was going, okay, I was like,
and I already had known that that was a possibility for some object, but I didn't know exactly which one it was or very much about it. But, I went into action and did some research, and I got the info. So
that is pretty cool, though.
Yeah. Even when it does come by in 2032, I can tell you that it will be 4.6 million miles from the Earth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty close.
it is pretty close.
For space miles, that's pretty close.
It is. No, you're absolutely correct. That's very close.
And I guess a lot of people don't, realize, and I'm one of them. I forget that time that we're talking about millions and billions of miles when we're talking about space and the distance between, how far, when these other planets are from us. Like the moon. I for some reason I didn't think it was that far away, but in space miles, that's really not far at all. I mean, that's just like,
no, it's not. It's really not. And if you think about manned space flight, that's as far as we've gone. 238,000 miles. That's it.
yep. And how far is Mars from us?
Oh, right off the top of my head, I don't have that
Okay,
number.
sorry, I wasn't trying. I was like,
But let's just say, if you're sending a spacecraft to Mars, if you do it at just the right time, you can get it there in 6 months. Okay, with the current technologies that we have. Okay.
okay,
And this is start thinking about if we ever get to send people to Mars, you have to think way in advance because at the best right now it takes 6 months to get you there, but you have to stay there for almost 2 years before you can come back because you want to get close to the Earth when you do that. You don't want to be really far from the Earth because then it would take you a lot longer to get back.
so it'd be a minimum of a 3-year mission.
More like 4.
Like 4. Okay, I see that. That's still not too bad. I mean,
it's not horrible, but yeah. But think about having all the food, all the air.
oh, the logistics for it's a nightmare.
Now, hopefully, we'll be able to create some of that there, so we don't have to rely totally on that. But to get there, you got to have 6 months of it at least or more, and then you'd like to have more to get back. So, I mean, you got to have some, held in reserve so that you can get back. But if you can create it there, that helps. But it's logistically, it's not an easy thing to think about because you got to have so much stuff, and how many people are you sending? You can't just send 1 or 2. You need to send 5 or 6 because you need to have somebody who's good at computer repair and computer. You need to have somebody who can be a doctor and do surgeries, and obviously you need to have somebody that can help them. So it'd be good to have like a nurse. All that stuff. I mean, you gotta have a lot of. You need to have a pretty good amount of people so that you can survive. And 1 or 2 people aren't going to be able to do it all. So they can't know everything. They can't and of course you're going to have to build a spacecraft that has super redundancy in it so that you can we've always done that, but you need a lot of redundancy because if something happens, it's not easy to fix it. You're either going to have lots of spare parts, which all that equates to a bigger, heavier spacecraft, which means it's going to require more oomph to get it there. So all that's
kind of like the size of the 3i Atlas.
Yeah, maybe.
I had to throw that in. I had to throw that in there. Going
no, but
the whole time you're talking about, I'm thinking the 3i Atlas. Is it maybe the 3i guy? I mean, what do we get? I mean, I don't know. To me, it's fun to speculate and to figure out because in all honesty, the chances of it being alien technology or something hostile like that to me is slim to none. But it's fun to speculate, and it's really neat when one of these objects do come in and how they act, and that we learn so much more about our solar system and our galaxy and stuff just from these objects and what they're
Right.
doing.
And I saw an astronomer, and nobody else backed him up, but or at least I haven't read anybody do that. But he thinks that it could be this 3i could be 7 billion years old.
That wouldn't surprise me either. It'd be really cool if we could hit that one and get some samples off of that.
Yeah, it's just moving too fast. There's no way we could get a spacecraft to move that quickly.
No, I thought that was pretty cool. And the one we did hit, that was neat. I do remember that one.
Yeah, that was.
Oh,
I mean,
gosh.
we've done some good stuff, and it's all important because someday there's going to be an object bearing for us. There's going to be an asteroid. There's a lot of them we don't even know about yet. I mean, we've got all these new technology telescope systems that are just looking for objects that move, and that's the key to figuring out some of these objects that we don't even know about because they're real tiny. And finding them is hard. Sometimes we don't find them until after they passed us up. The case of Comet, the second one, when he discovered it, it had already made its closest approach to Earth. So it was like 5 days before he discovered it that it was the closest to the Earth. But see, I don't know why some of those other why the automated systems didn't find it, I don't know, and he did. That's also interesting to me because he, an amateur. I don't know what kind of size telescope he had or anything like that, but that was that's a pretty good feat. It's not easy to find those things, comets and asteroids moving, but there's some amateurs do it, and it's pretty interesting. So amateur astronomers are still important to the real astronomical world. They still do a lot of stuff. A lot of times supernovae and other galaxies are seen by amateurs. That's what they do. Some guys, I know there's one guy from Australia. That's all he does. He has a thing where he looks at I don't know, probably over a month, he probably goes through several hundred galaxies that he looks at to see if there's a supernova in it, and he loves doing that.
And when they quote the movie Armageddon, when they're talking about how come we didn't hit this before, don't we have a budget for it? And he goes, yeah, we do, but it's a pretty damn big sky.
Yep.
And it is. So that, that's the way I look at it. It's a pretty damn big sky, but the key word on that one is just pretty. And I mean, it's absolutely,
well, yeah.
I love certain stars. And I remember that as a kid, and just, light pollution just kind of takes it away.
Yeah, it does. Unfortunately,
but I love it. I love this stuff. I really do. So, but I do want to end it with one question though.
Okay.
So we're talking about, the meteor showers coming in. So, and
yes.
now we have like a ton of satellites in space.
Yes.
Okay. So how come these meteor showers don't knock them out?
Because we're talking pieces of material that are so small. Because most of that stuff is dust grains, maybe teeny little pebbles, that are moving and hit the atmosphere and burn up before they probably get to that, especially the low Earth stuff. Now, does that mean other stuff doesn't get hit? Well, we know for a fact that the International Space Station's been hit by micrometeorites, and I'm sure there's a lot of other satellites that have been too, but they usually, if it's designed to be there for a while, they build into the superstructure of it to hopefully be able to take a hit like that. But if it's not a micrometeorite, if it was something the size of a pea, that would do some real damage to a spacecraft. We know that the shuttle even had micrometeorites that hit the windshields, hit their windshields, but luckily they were designed to handle that, and of course were replaced when they needed to be. But so the chances are small because the material is very small.
That's what I was going. That's what I was going for. For I knew it. I was just because it's just one of those things. Always, I was like going. There's all these meteor showers. I mean, of course you go to Hollywood. Like again, I mentioned Armageddon, like the beginning, like the shuttle gets destroyed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and not everything about Armageddon was scientifically factual.
Oh,
but
I
it was
know.
It was a great.
There was a lot.
I mean, I
love the movie.
loved it.
It's a great action
But
film.
I was also in the back of my mind. I don't think that would work that way. I didn't let that take away from the fun of it. It was a great idea, a great movie. It was cool to see, the Russian guy and them going and getting refuel from that Russian space station, and it was. I mean, there was a lot of really cool stuff about that movie.
Russian parts, American parts, all made in Taiwan.
Yeah, right. He's not wrong.
It's a fun movie.
Yeah, it was a great movie.
Well, I have a friend of mine. He's a big history buff, huge history buff. And one of my favorite movies is The 13th Floor. Great one-liners. It's a guy movie. You know what I mean? It's a guy's movie. There's no TNA. There's not a lot of violence to it. It's just, Antonio Banderas and Vikings. It's just, And my buddy goes, I hate that movie. And I'm like, why do you hate that movie? And he goes, they're not dressed accurately. I was like, dude, it's a movie. Based off of a book that this guy wrote, in college for a term paper,
right?
And he was like, well, I mean, they're wearing. It's like it doesn't matter. Okay, it's just a movie.
Yeah,
have fun.
It's imagination. It's using your imagination. Who cares whether it's right? Now, I will say that there was one sci-fi movie. I'm pretty good. I love sci-fi movies myself, but there was one where the guy gets stranded on Mars. The
Martian.
Yeah,
never seen it.
I couldn't swallow from the get-go. Just because there had the wind blowing and it was like he couldn't move, and that's not the way it is on Mars. And the whole premise of him being stuck there because something hit him. I don't know, the whole thing. I just couldn't ever get into that movie. I mean, I did watch the whole thing, but the whole time my head was shaking. Nope, that doesn't work that way. It won't. Now maybe if they hadn't started off that way, I could have got past it. But at the beginning of it, that was the whole premise of the story, and I'm like, no. You can't. I mean, that he wouldn't get stuck there for that reason. So I had a hard time with that movie. But
Hollywood likes to have a good story, and I think it's a book too, novel. People like that. It's a good story, and it's there's military movies and such, and it's I have to take myself out and go, that's not even close to accurate.
No, I know.
And it's, I'm like, oh, wow, there's a lot of, wow, look, they have, unlimited ammo, or grenades don't really explode like that,
that guy's machine gun, fired.
I'm going to fire I'm firing from the hip and I'm hitting every target. No, you're not. You're really not. And so it's just, do I have to take myself out and go, okay, there's a story here. Let me look at the story, and it's okay. Yeah. And some are fun.
But to be honest, that's the only one I can think of that I just couldn't stomach, and I don't know why. It just bothered me from the very, very. As soon as I turned it on, there was just like, this is. I don't know. I just didn't like it.
I'm with you on that one. But, all right. Well, Charles, I'm going to bring this in for landing. I do want to say thank you again for coming back on. We'll keep an eye on 3 Eye Atlas and we'll see what's going on with it. And we get some more news.
I'll keep an eyeball on it, and I'll see what's going on. And hopefully, as we look at it more, we may find out more. I don't really know. I haven't heard anything about the James Webb looking at it yet. So, of course, it's harder to get time on some of those telescopes to do stuff like that because they're so involved in so many other projects that sometimes it can be hard for that. But I'm sure somehow they're making room to get some observations in with that. So that might tell us a whole lot more about it. But
well, we'll definitely find out in October.
Yep.
By then. So
anytime you need me, give me a call.
I appreciate it. I really do. All right, everybody. Thank you again for listening to another episode of the Drunken Cryptids. And remember, if you found an encounter and you want to come on the show, email me at drunkencryptids@gmail.com. Make sure you're following us on all our social media platforms. And we do have a Patreon, so if anything on any tiers of Patreon jumps out at you, go ahead and sign up. I appreciate all the help and support. Keep liking and sharing. And until next time, y'all keep on squatching.
I can do anything that I want. I can do anything that I want now. I can do anything that I want. Hey, hey, if it is to be, you know that it's up to me. I'm headed to the front. I can be anything